James St. James. I'm here today talking about the new documentary, Red Lake. It's a short film that's in the LA Film Festival. I'm with the director, old friend Billy Luther, and Missy Dodds, one of the subjects of the documentary. Billy, tell me a little bit about just sort of the background of what the documentary is about.
The documentary is about a shooting that had happened at Red Lake, Minnesota about 10 years ago, and following up on 3 lives, a teacher and 2 students, 10 years after. So it just follows their journey as they heal.
Let's watch a second.
When I was growing up, I wanted to play football.
All I ever wanted to do was be a teacher.
I was trying to go to college.
It's amazing how 90 seconds can just change everything.
In northern Minnesota today on the Red Lake Indian Reserve, a 16-year-old Chippewa boy went on a shooting spree.
People say, oh, it's 10 years later, you know, you should be okay, you should move on, but it's not like that.
I can still hear kids screaming.
She'll never forget what she saw, the feelings she had.
It's kind of like this area has just forgotten it. They pushed it under the rug, and I think a lot of my kids are discouraged from talking.
This is the darkest days in the history of our tribe and the history of our people.
Been kind of like needing to get it off our chest.
I miss that person that died that day. I have to keep moving forward.
Ten people lost their lives in the shooting when a young Chippewa boy came in and just opened fired in your classroom. You were a teacher at the time. Yeah. Watching the documentary, I was crying all the way through. It's a lot to take in. I wonder if you can sort of just tell what happened.
The shooter, I don't like to say his name, the shooter shot through a panel of glass that was by my door. And at the time, I did what we were supposed to do, turn all the lights off, scoot all the students over against the wall. And he got into my room by a panel of glass, shooting it out and walking in. And he just started at the other end that I was and just literally went down the road.
When he gets to you, what happens?
There's no more bullets.
He puts the gun to your head and pulls the trigger, and that's when there was no more bullets there. It's just, I can't even begin to imagine. It changed your life forever.
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 Yes, forever.
A lot of the documentary is about the recovery process. Have you been able to find any closure at all?
It's baby steps. I don't know what complete closure is. More I'm learning to accept that happened to me, that the person I was on March 20th of 2005, the day before, doesn't exist anymore.
Was the process of working with a documentarian and going through everything that happened again, does that help?
Yes.
Or did that open up old wounds?
It opened up old wounds, but it helped. What Billy did by filming this and giving Ashley, Jeff, and I a voice to finally tell our stories made a huge difference in my recovery process. I've been able to go to some college graduation parties. I was able to meet with some of the other survivors on the actual day of the shooting. It's kind of an anniversary. By going through the process, it was scary, it hurt, but each time I go up there, it's a little bit easier and it doesn't hurt quite as much.
Tell a little bit about finding the students, and obviously there were some that were more reluctant to talk than others. Jeff was a student who, tell a little bit about his story. He was shot in the face.
He was shot in the face, and
as he was trying to help, right?
As he was trying to help.
He saved my life. When the gun was empty that he aimed at me, Jeff May had a pencil because he'd been doing his math, and he went to stab the shooter.
He went up against a shooter, an
in
armed shooter, in a
bulletproof
vest with multiple guns and armed with a pencil.
Each of them had their separate journeys, and I think with Jeff, he also kind of struggles with that label as hero. You know, he just says that this is something that anybody would have done.
You've mentioned in interviews and in speaking to you and everything about how you don't think that the story resonated nationally. You think that that's because it took place on a Native American reservation?
Yeah, definitely. At the time, it was the deadliest shooting since Columbine. 10 lives were lost. It just didn't get much media coverage. And I don't want to lessen the other tragedies that have happened, but had it been, upper class, white community, or, I think it would have resonated a little bit more.
I agree 100%.
That's a shame.
I think that's why I wanted to tell this story, because it's, when we talk about these tragedies, Red Lake is never mentioned, and it's almost like these survivors and the victims' families are, forgotten.
I've seen some of the other documentaries, Grab and Miss Navajo, and this tonally is very different than the other things that you've done. Tell me a little bit about approaching it and what you went through as you were making it.
First of all, it's a short doc, and
29 minutes.
29 minutes,
yeah.
And that was a challenge because there were so many stories and so many storylines, and I thought it would really have much more of an impact for it being a short film. I just didn't have the humor that Miss Navajo and Grab had, of course, because of the topic. But I think there's a beauty in it. You're not going to walk away with Red Lake, feeling miserable. I think you're going to walk away feeling hope and not looking at these survivors as victims, but looking at them as being these strong subjects and people. That's what I think resonates.
It's so beautifully shot that you do walk away from it feeling something good has come from the documentary.
Yes.
In that you've all been able to maybe start healing a little.
Yes, to talk about it, to start a dialogue. For a lot of us, we feel like we've been forgotten about. Nobody cares. It's been shut off. And by doing this, we're all able to talk again. And several of my students and friends to know that they're still dealing with it, because I think, oh, look at so-and-so. They look happy in their life. They're good. They forgot about it. I'm horrible because I'm still dealing with it. Billy giving me a voice, that's really changed my life. And so hopefully in time I'll be able to do more of that. I'm really grateful for that. Thank you.
Thank you. There's other films out there that talk about the gun control issue and really make political statements with their films. And this is something that I didn't want. I wanted it to be more about the human struggle that these incidents bring to these survivors. It doesn't make an argument. What it does is it shows you the effects that these tragedies have on lives, and I think that connects more with the audience. I think it's really about this
the people.
The people, yeah.
Yes.
The people. And I think once you do that and tell their stories, I think that people will get it. And I think one great point that James, your husband, makes is it's he connected it with his grandfather, the PTSD about war, and that's really what this is about. It's about mental health.
There was something about you will always remember the smells and the sights and the sounds and that was when he said that it was a moment that was like, oh, it's you've been through war.
It is. I have a tub down in my basement of teaching of Red Lake papers and then stuff that we were able to save out of my classroom. I've opened it once since the shooting, and I did that in therapy because of the smell.
Oh.
And the smell of death. If I get a whiff of that, it takes me back. Some sounds. I can now have an ambulance drive by my house without me going into a panic attack. And Billy's absolutely right. There's nothing that I have found out there just for the survivors. When we were filming last summer, Charleston, South Carolina had just happened.
We were filming.
And I remember just thinking about how I would just love to meet with those people and just hear their stories and just hold their hand and tell them, yep, I get it. It's just kind of a bond. unfortunately I mean, fortunately, but unfortunately, the type of bond it is.
How did it affect the Native American community around Red Lake? Do you think that the people on the reservation have healed, or are they sort of in denial about it still?
No, I think as you see in the film, I think that a lot of these students and the community is struggling, you know, and I think that silence, you know, was a big part of their kind of their struggle. And I think now a lot of them are ready to return. And when we went back and started filming, it felt like it just happened last week. Mm-hmm. And I think with going back 10 years later, I think everyone was just like, okay, just, you know, nobody talks about it. You know, I think the brothers say in the film, you know, we don't really talk about it. It's not something that we want to remember.
In this sort of day and age of the 24-hour news cycle, and everybody moves so quickly from one story to the next, to actually go back 10 years later, very few people do that. I mean, with any story anywhere, like, you know.
I think that's what was so intriguing about Billy, the way you presented. You were like, I don't want to know what happened that day. I don't, you know, that's not what I'm about. I want to know how you are now. And I think that's what got my mind, and I started thinking, I thought, wow, yeah, I'm ready. It is a different perspective than anything I've ever seen. I'm proud of it for that.
So Red Lake premieres tonight at the LA Film Festival and again on Tuesday, and you can go to their website to still get tickets if you want. I'm so glad that you're here to see it. I know.
Thank you.
So thank you for coming on and telling your story.
Thank you.
Thanks.